So what I want to talk to you guys about and demonstrate for you guys is photo restoration. This is going to go in part with your project for this week. That is two parts: photo restoration and the colorization of that photo after you restore it. So if you notice in the directions so far, you are to find a black and white image or photos. It would be great if you can find a photo that is your own, an old photo that needs some restoration done to it. It doesn't have to be a drastic restoration done to it, but some work does should need to be done on it. Okay, restoring that photo, even if the photo is not completely black and white, it has a tint to it of some sort. That's fine. You can still use that image, scan it in at the highest resolution possible, like 300 to 600 ppi, and then desaturate the colors. In the directions, it'll have some steps on how to do that. The instructions are not not set up to where you do just that and that's it. That's a guide, okay, the way that I have it. All right, most of the work is done, of course, by you and not in something that's necessarily laid out in the instructions. For example, the restoration part of the instructions are not written out on there because that's something that is self-explanatory. Okay, some other things I laid out to help simplify it, a little bit. But you still have to put in the work, and you still have to kind of work the levels on it to get the look that you're looking for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start opening up this image here because this is the image that I'm going to work with. See, it's taking a little while to open up. But I want you guys to pay very close attention to the technique that I use, some of the changes that I make and the tools that I use, why I'm using them, and not just take the tools and try to rush through it because the work will look rushed. It won't look it will look edited. So, and that's what you don't want. You don't want your image to look edited. All right, and I'm going to show you some technique that's going to help you see how to do that. Okay. Come on, load. I apologize in advance for any background noise. I have been working all day to fix the issue with my computer. So now kiddos are back from school and things like that. So you might hear a little something in the background. All right, so my image is up. All right, and you can see on my layers panel, I've already done some things, so I have you to kind of speed along the process. But what I want you to do is once you get your image in, what have you, you can see that my image is my image size right here is a 6 by 4, but the resolution is pretty high. So as I start to work on this, and the more I start to work on this, it's going to slow down my computer significantly, especially mine, because I need to get mine upgraded. However, if you have the same issue or what have you where it's slowing down, it's because the image is really large, so it's taking a while to render. So what you're going to do first is, even once you get your image, in Photoshop, open your scanned image in Photoshop. You're going to go to File, New, and make sure you set up your document. All right? I don't want the resolution at 72. I want it at 150. All right? Leave it at RGB, 7 by 5. The orientation is totally up to you. Okay? I know my image is portrait, so I'm going to keep it at portrait. All right? Now, Here is my new document, my new file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to this other image here. I'm going to select this background layer, and I am going to drag it to, there we go. Oh, sorry, it's locked. Duh. All right, here we go. Yes, I want to proceed. All right. I'm going to hit Command 0, and that's going to show me where my guides are so that I can size my image. I'm going to hit Command 0 again. Command or Control 0, depends. I'm hit Command and minus just kind of give me a better idea. And I am going to now scale it down. Now, depending on your image, I'm going to say this, I am not going to be a huge stickler on the 5x7 size. If you scan your image and you go to size your image into the document and it looks like this, once you place it in your document, I am okay with you cutting off this little piece here if this bottom piece here is significant and you want to keep all of it. For me, it's not a big deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and bring it all the way across here. I'm going to commit to it. And now I have it where I want it. Okay. Now, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to name this layer original. All right. I'm also going to copy this layer, and then I'm going to lock it and hide it. This background layer here, I'm going to go ahead and delete it because I don't need it. Okay. This image here, I am now going to convert it to a smart object. Okay. Once it's converted to a smart object, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save my document. You guys know how you should save it. By now, everybody should be saving it this way. I know that I have on the PDF that is Project 3, but I'm going to change that later and re-upload it. It is Project 2, okay? All right. So now I have my document saved, and I am ready to start working, okay? Now, what I want you to do is I want you to organize your layers into at least two parts. Okay, well, you're gonna have two folders for sure. You're gonna have your background layer, okay? You're gonna have your original layer, and then you're gonna have your restorations folder, you're gonna have your colorization folder, okay? All of your restoration is gonna be done in this folder, okay? First thing that I'm working with is restoration, all right? I'm not gonna put the folder now. I'm gonna wait until I get all my things done, and then I'm gonna put everything in that folder, okay? But anything that I do is going to be, unless it is a filter, unless I'm applying a blur, something like that, which I don't need to apply a blur, or sharpen, or whatever the case may be. It just depends on what your image, how your image is, okay? And what it is that you're going to need to do to help bring that image into both focus and clarity, okay? Anything else, any edits, I'm going to do that on a different layer. Now, when I'm working my restoration on here, the main tools that I'm going to use are my spot healing brush, the healing brush, and possibly the patch tool. Maybe the content aware move tool, we'll just see. Just so far looking at it, I doubt that I'm going to use this. It just depends on if the patch tool doesn't work the way that I plan on working, then I may go ahead and use the content aware move tool. I foresee that I will probably use that on this bottom portion here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to start with my spot healing brush, okay? As I'm looking at this image, I can see that there are certain images, certain spots on here that I can take care of real quickly with the spot healing brush, okay? I do not need to use or try to find an access point. I can just allow Photoshop to automatically do that for me, okay? And it'll select, some of the similar pixels around it, all right? But what I want to make sure that I do is on this layer, because I'm using the spot healing brush, I'm gonna put that on this layer, spot healing brush. Okay. Now remember, you want to make sure that your brush is at the hardness or softness that you want. Okay. You want to pay attention to how your image is. This image here is a fairly blurred image. There's a lot of blending with the pixels going in. So then I'm going to make sure that my brush is soft. Okay. The mode, I'm going to switch back and forth, and I'm going to show you guys why I'm going to switch back and forth from normal to replace. Okay. You're going to see the difference in why it is that I'm going to switch from normal to replace as I'm working on it. Okay. The other thing is I want to make sure that sample all layers is checked. Okay. Why? Because there are no pixels on this layer, right? So I want to make sure that it's going to sample from below that, so that I can make sure that I'm getting the right pixels in here to cover up these spots that I want gone. All right. So I have that selected. And do not be afraid to zoom in and get close up, all right? So my spot healing brush. I'm going to keep it small. All right, I'm going to work with little areas at a time. And if anything looks kind of off or weird, I'm going to go back over it again. See how that little deal popped up there? Some of those can be a little annoying. I'm going to work with some on her face, okay? All right, I'm going to go back because I didn't like that little spot there. My brush size is a little big, so I'm going to lower it, make it a little bit smaller. See the difference? Now, I want to show you guys something real quick. I'm not going to fool around with her whole face or what have you right now, because the main thing is I just want to show you guys just a few things. I am not going to do a spot healing brush right up in here. Do you see how that looks right up in here? It messed that up. It looks weird. Here, I'm going to use the healing brush, because then I can pick an access point and I can fill that in and clone that how I want, versus letting Photoshop try to figure out how it's supposed to be. It doesn't look right. Not every spot that you do is going to work that way. Like up in here, I wouldn't use the spot healing brush for that. This area is too big. I'm only going to use the spot healing brush for areas where there's a lot of similar pixels in their area, and there's an isolated area. See that? That little white spot is isolated, and these pixels up in here are similar. See that? That worked out. Some of these spots will work out. Now, I don't foresee this spot working out very well, but I might be curious to try it and see what happens. I don't think that it will work out because of it being so close to the eyebrow. See, exactly what I thought. Now, let me do this again because I want you to see something that he did. So not only did it pick up some of the white and blending it, up in here and the eyebrow, but there's a little bit of the white here as well. Now I'm going to undo that, but notice that my mode is still at normal. I'm going to undo that, and I want you to see the difference of when I do replace. See that? It took more of those pixels or what have you that I was using. It put those pixels or what have you together, and it left me this spot here. But because it was so big, the color and the shading or what have you didn't blend very well. So while on the other end, I'm getting more of a blend on replacing, I'm not. So it has to be very close in the color and the shading for that to work out pretty good, okay? See the difference on that? Now, I'm going to show you, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Right up in here. I'm going to get rid of this part, and then I'm going to show you how I do this part, okay? There's an easier part, an easier way to do this versus trying to mask this part out. Now, this image here is pretty pixelated, so I'm going to switch over to this one, and that's because of my resolution. Me bringing the resolution down to 150. All right, so I'm going to bring it over here. That way you can see it a little bit better. Go on this background copy. Do this here. That way you can see it a lot clearer, okay? Go to my spot, healing. All right. I'm going to see how this part is going to look first. Uh-oh, what did I do? Oh, I'm still on replace. All right. All right, that looks a little better. Yeah, that's okay. Now, for this part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the healing brush so that I can pick an access point, target point, and with similar pixels, and then make the copy those pixels and put them here versus just trying to allow the spot healing brush to automatically do it. Now, what I was saying was about this spot here versus trying to fix it here with the cloning, with the healing brush, and show you the difference. That doesn't look very good. I would not recommend doing this because I can see that there's an obvious edit. Okay, I'm going to show you an easier way to fix this by using the healing brush. Okay. First, I'm going to do this part. I selected the healing brush. I'm going to select a new layer, and I'm going to name it healing. Not spot healing, just the healing brush. Okay. Now, I'm going to make sure that I have align checked, if that's what I want for right now. current and below are all layers. I'm going to hit all layers just in case there is something on this layer as well that I want, especially from this layer too. Definitely going to want those pixels. Okay. So I have that selected. Now I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger. And what I'm doing is I'm hitting the right bracket key. Now I want to make sure that I'm paying very close attention to similar shading. Okay. I'm going to work with small areas at a time. Zoom in as much as you like. This is why I say do your resolution as high as you possibly can. And if you want to do your restoration at the higher resolution, if you want to do your restoration at the higher resolution to help you, that's fine. To make it easier for you to be able to see those pixels without having the pixelation, then that's great. As a matter of fact, what I may do is I'll just go ahead and bump up the resolution to 300. That way you guys don't have to worry about that. Because what I don't want is for you guys to have have two different files that you're working in. Okay. All right. So then I'm also going to look at my brush size. I don't want my brush too big. I'm going to pick my access point. Uh-oh. Yeah. Stop it. Oh. It switched over to the spot healing. I need the healing brush. There we go. All right. One thing I want you to do is pay attention to that little plus sign. Okay? Pay attention to where that little plus sign is going. I am going to switch over to this side, and I'm going to work my way in. I'm going to come here, I'm going to come here, and I'm just going to kind of work my way in. Now, you see as I'm going how it is blending in that those white pixels with her skin? I don't like that. So I'm going to switch to replace and see how it looks. See that? It's not blending it like that. Or rather, it's not blending those white pixels that I'm trying to get rid of with the skin, what it is that I'm trying to clone. Okay, so that gives me a better look. Now, what I'm doing is I'm working at little increments at a time. Why? Because if I just keep going, what in the world is going on with my computer? Saving. Why? Okay. See if I hit this target part here, and I just keep going all the way over, it's going to pick up the white pixels that I don't want. All right. So I want to make sure that I'm getting a very nice flow. Excuse me. I'm going to come back on this side. Why am I coming back on this side? Well, the way her eyebrow looks here is different from the way her eyebrow looks here. Okay. This side is a little bit more sharper and darker than this side. I fix that. I need this. There we go. Come back to this side. And like Miss Irving, but it's taking so long. Like, okay, that's fine. It's taking so long. I get it. But wait, you will see. Oh, went too high. Sorry for the silence. Okay, so I don't know what's going on with my computer. It might be automatically saving because it is on the cloud deal. But even still, I'm not saving anything. It shouldn't be doing anything. But who knows? I need to get my computer service, so it's probably just not liking me now. So now what I'm doing is I am just kind of cleaning up a little bit under the eyebrow. And now I'm going to come back to my spot healing brush. Okay? Yeah, I'm just going to kind of right up in here. I may have to come back there because this work was done on here. There we go. Now, does that look realistic? Do you see any edits on there? Nope, I don't. I can't hear you because you're not here. That was my corny comment for the day. And you guys will probably still not respond. I know it. I already know. Now, so I'm going to show you guys how I take care of this part. I'm going to show you guys first an option how to take care of all of this here if you really wanted to, okay? I'm not going to worry about this part here because it's not necessary at this moment for what it is that we're wanting to do. All right. I'm going to take my healing brush, all right, and I am going to do a target point right here on her eye, on her left eye, okay, and I'm going to bring it right here, and I'm going to make my brush bigger, and look, you see that? Her whole eye. You can see my brush is pretty hard. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that my brush is all the way soft. See that? Looks much different now. The only thing is, her eye, if I was to clone her eye like this, it would look really weird. All right? Looks like she'd have two right eyes. Okay? Did you see like this pupil? And you see how one of her eyes is, this eye is slanted? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the panel that is going to help me make the edits that I need for the cloning. And to open up a panel, you go to Windows, right? I'm going to clone source, and it's going to open up this clone source panel. All right? Right here, this will allow me to flip my my target image that is in my brush. My brush view is going to allow me to flip it horizontally. This will allow me to flip it vertically. I don't want to flip it vertically. I'm going to do it horizontal. And you see, it's going the other way. Now you see your pupil is pointing in the opposite direction. And if I just clone it this way, and leave it like that, it'll look weird. All right? There's no worries. You can always fix that. But it's still slanted. It's still straight. It's not slanted like the other one. Well, right here, I can rotate it. Oops. Let's just move it slightly and see how that goes. Oops. That looks all right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of line it up. where it is, and I'm going to click, and I'm just going to kind of fill it in. All right. Take notice of the axis, the little crosshair over here where I did my target. All right. And there I have it. I now have her eye on this side. So if this eye was perfectly fine, the shadows and everything like that was perfectly fine, it wouldn't be an issue. But I still have more work to do if I decide to go this route and duplicating her eye. Okay. This is one way of doing something like that. For this particular image, that's not what I'm going to do to execute that, because for me, I feel like it'll be more work to have to do it that way. However, it's an option to be able to duplicate and get a very similar or a good result. Okay. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to the other thing is, if you make any edits or changes here, you need to go back and fix those, because every time that you're going to want to make a change or clone something, it's going to use what you have right up in here. So make sure you change those things back. All right. Now, to get this little dot off of her pupil, I'm just going to clone this little spot right here, because she has one just like it on this side. I'm going to come right up in here. I'm going to line it up. Now, it's really stark, and I don't like that. So I'm going to undo it. I'm going to hit my mode, change it to normal. I'm going to try it again. See how different that is? And then for this part here, I'm not going to use the spot healing brush. I'm going to use the healing brush to get rid of all of this here. And I'll show you real quick how some of that looks and some of what I have done. All right. So if you use these techniques, okay, and take your time getting rid of the marks that may be on these images, you will find that you will have a much better result. Okay. So those are some tips that I strongly recommend that you guys use. All right. I'm going to show you guys real quick at the bottom of this particular image if you may have something that's like this. All right. There are two options that I've seen some people do. Now, for me personally, the route that I would take to clean this would be, I would take my time and just continue the same method and do half of this image, clean and restore half of this image here. Then I will clone this half to cover this half. I would try to, do the little, take my time going through all of this to have it replicate on this side. I would just do this side here, and then take my patch. Let's see where we are here. Yep, my patch tool, and put it on this side and simplify that and just blend that in. That would be a faster way for me. Another way that I've seen some people do, it just depends on what it is that they're doing, if they're colorizing it or whatnot, they will tend to just put a gradient over it. Find a similar color and put a gradient over it. Depending on the image, could I just cut it off right here? Absolutely. Personally, if I just cut it off there, if I cut it off at the bottom here, then I have to cut more off at the top. because then it'll bring her down in the image. So the amount of spacing that's down at the bottom is about the same amount of spacing that's at the top as well. So it has her placed right perfectly in this image. Okay, so you want to keep that in mind too when you're cropping. All right. Now I'm going to show you some colorization. All right. Let's see. Oh, am I over there? Okay. So you're going to see some of those things still on there because I did not clean all of that up. All right. Now, on the colorization, let's see. Should I go on this side? Yeah, I'll do that. Oh, even still, yeah, I'm definitely telling you guys to change it to 300 because I'm not happy with that. On the handout, I gave you guys, and the handout is going to show you that there is for those of you who don't remember, the library. Utilize your library, okay? Because you're going to be doing colorization, you're not going to have necessarily the skin tone colors that you may like to use in your image, all right? So I'm going to show you 2 ways that you can add skin tone or try to match skin tone in your document, all right? The first one is finding an image that has a similar skin tone that you may want to use and dragging it into your document. If you're going to select a color from their face, do not select a highlighted area or a shadowy area, okay? You want to pick more of a neutral area, what have you, that is more of their skin tone, okay? Their actual skin tone versus the extra lighting on there, because you're not going to find that you're going to get the color that you want, okay? So you can use an image to do that. You can select, if you say you want to use the same color hair, and lips and things like that. But you want to keep in mind, if it's an older photo, you may not necessarily want the lips to be that bold, in it. But again, make it look authentic. All right. Same with the eyes. It's your choice. If it's your image and you know what that person looks like and what their hair color is and their lips and their eyes are, so you know what to make it. All right. Now, with the library, let's put my library. You can add swatches to your library. Easiest way that I like to add swatches to the library, and you notice here I have one that says skin tone. I have a link in you guys' project. Wrong one. Instructions that you can go here to add swatches. Now, all of you guys have an Adobe sign-in, so you sign in with your Adobe login information, and this will allow you to save to your library. You add it to your library. You don't need to download anything, and bring it in there. It's totally up to you if that's what you choose to do. However, it's not necessary. What all you have to do is click add to your library, and it will be right here in your library. So you have your skin tones, here. And if you decide that you want to use this color for, for hair, this color for, for skin, whatever. Once you select that color. Sorry, my computer is running slow. It's going to show up here in your swatches. And you guys know that you can name your swatches. All right. There we go. Click the new, name your swatches. That's the color of your skin. Let's saved. It'll also be saved to your library if you checked it to do so. All right, you go down here, boom, there's skin. That way, you save your work. It's like, oh my goodness, what color did I use again? Well, you don't have to go and try to figure it out or try to sample it from here because you're not going to get the exact same color. All right. Now, there's some instruction on there on how to set up your layers and how you go about doing that. For this one, there's two ways that I have my skin color. I have this one here where I added a new layer, changed the color mode to color, and I began to paint in the area that I wanted that color. All right. Then I changed the opacity down till I thought that it looked okay. This is not great, but for the purpose of the example, it's okay. The other option is, instead of changing the opacity on the layer, okay, go to normal, change the color. All right. My brush is selected. I can change my opacity here. About 30%, and I can start coloring. See that? Like, oh, Miss Irving, you color all over her lips and her eyes. That's okay. I just made it easier for myself. But this also gives me the opportunity to get my points for what? Useful alpha channels. Yes. Yes, because why? Alpha channels are going where? Nowhere. They're going nowhere. Well, they're going somewhere, but they're always going to be here. Okay? They're always going to be here. So, you got to keep in mind, if you're going over it, you can only go over it once. Because if I go over it again, it just darkened it. That's why I prefer to just change my opacity here. Now, by going over her eyes, no worries, because guess what I did prior to? Ms. Irving decided, you know what? I know that I'm going to want to have her eyes a different color, her pupils are going to be a different color, her skin, her lips are going to be a different color, and I got to get my alpha channels in. So I'm going to go ahead and make selections of her eyes. I'm going to make selections of her pupils. I'm going to make a selection of her lips. I'm going to make a selection of these flowers in her hair, because these all are main things that I see right offhand that I can make a selection of and use them to mask out the main colors that I might use in it, like for her hair, or for her face. That way, I don't have to worry about trying to cross colors or anything like that. Okay? So keep that in mind. There are still ways that you can get your useful alpha channels in. All right? You do not have to stick with color mode. If you decide as you're going through that you see another one that looks a lot better, oh, I like the soft light, the overlay looks much better. Okay, use the overlay. What I don't want to see is people looking really ghostly. That looks ghostly, or orangey, and things like that. No oompa loompas. Make it look realistic. All right. Let's see. Let me go through my notes to see if there's anything else that I needed to let you guys know. Yes, there is something I need to let you guys know. Something else is really important. So I'm going to come into this one here, because what I want you to do is I want you to show me a before and after. All right. So let's pretend this one is all done, has color on it, yada, yada, yada. Let's put some color on here just so that we can see the difference between the two. Color. Let's change the opacity. Right there. Let's see. Oh, she has the color to her. Yes, 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 yes. All right, cool. All right, so we have that. And um, what I want you to do is I want a side by side before and after image, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to come to image, all right? Oops, canvas size, and you're going to duplicate your width, all right? Do not have a relative selected. Make sure relative is unselected. You're going to duplicate your width. Now, if your image is horizontal, all right, if your image is horizontal versus duplicating the width, just duplicate the height, all right? Put them one on top of one another versus side by side, so that is not super long, okay, and make it easier to see, all right? Then you're going to make sure that your anchor point is over here to the left, because what I want to do is I want to add space over here, all right? I'm going to hit OK, and boom, there's space over there. I'm going to hit Command 0 so that I see that. Now, here's where my original image is coming back to play. I'm going to unlock it. I'm going to select it. And just to make it easier, I'm going to call my Move tool. And I'm going to move it over to the left. All right. Bring everything back up. Before and after, side by side. That's it. Okay? That's it. What you're going to do is, on your finished copy, right up in here or on this corner, whichever one, put your signature on there. How do you put your signature? The choice is up to you. You can either write out your signature, scan it in and post it there, or you can put it in script, script font, and just put it there, in that corner. Not anything where it looks super odd, okay? I don't know if you guys are familiar with Olin Mills. However, I might be dating myself yet again. However, look it up. Look it up, or if you ever, realize on some of the school photos, right in the corner, there have their logo. I mean, their name right in the corner. So make sure you put that in there. You do not have to have it on both of them because you only restored the one. All right. And that is what you will turn into me, your Photoshop file. But I want to see your files, your layers looking like this. All right. This was the other way that I did a color layer. I mean, coloring the face. I filled up, I picked the color from her face, filled in the layer, and then I masked out the area that I did not want. Because if I remove the mask, guess what happens? The whole image is colored. All right? So I think that is all that I have for you guys. Let me just go through my notes real quick. I want to make sure that I don't forget anything because it took me forever to get this demo going, which was very frustrating. So I do appreciate you guys' patience, that's for sure. Let's see. Yeah. Yep, that's it. Okay, so again, if you guys have any questions, any issues whatsoever, if you want me to take a look at the image to verify that that is okay to use, feel free to send it to me on Discord. It's going to be the fastest way. If you don't want anybody to see it just yet, definitely send it to me privately, and that way I can still get to you and get what you need. All right? All right, you guys have a good one.